robots took my podcast, man.
All that they've loved, all that they've fought for, all that they've stood for will now be put to the test. Star Trek III, The Search for Spock.
The word, sir? The word is no. I am therefore going anyway.
You do this, you'll never sit in the captain's chair again.
Engage auto systems. Clear all moorings.
Cleared, sir.
1/4 impulse power.
Someone is stealing the Enterprise.
Warp speed.
Klingon bird appraiser. She's arming torpedoes.
Shields up.
The shield's non-responsive.
We're a sitting duck.
Join us on this, the final voyage of the Starship Enterprise. Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. The adventure continues.
Star Trek, nothing but Star Trek.
I promise I will not make any pon-far jokes. Okay.
Who pon-farted? Okay. This is a family podcast.
Try to keep it clean. All those young Vulcans out there.
We've got to get this podcast out of here, Jordan.
We've got to get Spock away from this podcast, Jim. If we don't, he will die again.
Warp speed, Mr. Jordan.
All right. Okay, Anthony. Warp speed. Captain's discretion.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to our podcast. The robots took my podcast. I am Jordan.
And I am Anthony.
Anthony, what movie are we searching for today?
Today, Jordan, this episode is another one of what we call our Threequel episodes. You like to call our odd Threequel episodes.
Yes, the odd Threequel.
It's a recurring format in which we talk about the third movie in a film franchise. You know, some of these movies are great. They're return to form. They're the best movie of the franchise. Some of them, just a cheap cash in. And before our modern era of like huge,
sequels.
Sequel franchises.
More sequels. Yeah, franchises. Yeah.
The 1980s was basically a time when like the big tentpole movies were kind of just starting to have sequels.
It was when it was gearing up, yeah. And this movie that we're talking about, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, came out in a summer where there was another sequel. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom came out the same summer. So we already have a sequel, 2 sequels in one summer in 84, which is unheard of except for maybe the previous year, 83, where they had Return of the Jedi and Superman 3 and yet another James Bond movie. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Sequels and franchises were still getting going by comparison to what we have nowadays. Nowadays, there's just sequels everywhere and franchises everywhere.
Yeah, so Star Trek was one of the first major film franchises to do this. Obviously, Star Wars and other things came before. But of the Star Trek movies, and I'm just a casual fan, Jordan, I'm not like a huge Star Trek fan. I know you are a lover of science fiction, including Star Trek, right?
But although I love Star Trek, but I probably wouldn't win against another harder core Star Trek fan in a contest of questionnaire or, you know what I mean, or trivial kind of thing. Yeah, I probably love it more than you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably know of this movie more and familiar more of this movie more than you are. But yeah, would I call myself hardcore? I wish I could, honestly, but I only know so much about Star Trek, honestly.
Yeah, but of the Star Trek movies, a lot of fans tend to say that the even ones are good, the odd ones not so good, right?
Yes.
So this is an odd one.
Yeah.
And maybe an odd threequel. We'll find out.
Yeah. And that was always the consensus, too, is the even ones were better with the Kirk and Spock movies from the original 6 or 7, if you want to call it, depending on if you want to count Star Trek Generations in there or not as the 7th movie, because William Shatner is in it anyway. But yeah, out of all these original movies that span from 79 all the way to 1992 or 94, whichever you prefer, like I said. But yeah.
Yeah. So Nicholas Meyer directed the previous one, Star Trek II Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
But he didn't return for this movie, did he, to direct?
No, he wouldn't return again until Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, as a director.
Yeah.
And writer again. But no, only as a writer on Star Trek 4. But the weird thing is his spirit lingers over this movie. It's like his influence lingers from the last movie. You know what I mean? In a good way.
Yeah. So who did they end up getting to direct this film, Jordan?
None other than, well, Leonard Nimoy, because Leonard Nimoy said, more or less, if you want me back in this movie, I want to direct it also.
That doesn't seem logical, Jordan.
He said that apparently it wasn't that easy, though. He went to Gary Nardino, I think it was, over at Paramount first. And Gary Nardino said, you want to direct it? I've been thinking the same thing. And Nimoy even thought, this is too easy. But he did not hear back from Paramount for months. And then finally he called and he talked to, I believe, Michael Eisner, who was running Paramount at that time. And Eisner said,
yeah,
I can't let you direct. You don't want to be Spock anymore. You wanted to die in the last movie.
Yeah, we wrote off your character. But
yeah, he said
left it open, but yeah.
And he had just written a book that said, I am not Spock.
I'm not Spock. Yeah.
And
followed up by I am Spock.
Yeah, exactly. And it took some tug of war kind of, and it really, it's weird to understand who to believe in this story too, because Nimoy says he just simply didn't think that this was going to go on longer than it did. He really believed that. But the thing is, I believe him in the interviews when he says this.
Yeah.
Shatner thinks it was a negotiating ploy a lot of times with Nimoy, even here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I believe what Michael Eisner said. You don't want to be Spock, you know.
Yeah,
you clearly you don't want to be Spock. You were okay with him dying, and why would you want to come back for directing and appearing a little bit? But
yeah, but he directed some TV before this, including an episode of T.J. Hooker the year before.
That's right,
William
which
Shatner's
apparently
TV
Shatner Shatner claims that he got him the job on, which he might have actually.
Yeah,
because that was Shatner's show. That was the Shatner's own TV show where he was the man. That was his show.
Yeah. And so anyway, scoring this movie is James Horner, whom we last talked about on our Humanoids from the Deep episode.
Yeah. And what a great, he's returning. Yeah. James Horner. Returning from Star Trek to the Wrath of Khan with the same cues and more, and then some. And then the cues enhanced a bit as well. But man, what a beautiful operatic score this is for this movie. James Horner did a great job to me coming back on this movie and enhancing what he did before and doing better than what he did before.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that more probably as we go on. I noticed in the credits 2 different Roddenberry credits, right? I mean, that's because of lawyers right there, huh?
He's a creative consultant on this movie, but I think he was kind of pushing the background more on this movie.
Exactly. Also, who did they bring in to do the effects for this movie?
Oh, they brought back Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, the company owned by George Lucas at the time. And it was, I believe, Mr. Ken Ralston heading things this time around on Star Trek 3. He'd worked on Wrath of Khan, too, as a supervisor. And, man, the effects on this movie still look great, in my opinion.
Especially in high def. I mean, I know they...
Oh, yes. I agree.
Years ago, they went through and they digitally remastered these movies and then also cleaned up some of the effects, which I don't like as much. It's quite obvious at times, but
yeah, I agree. They did that for the motion picture, Star Trek: The Motion Picture already, but luckily they left a lot of this stuff alone. The other ones alone a little less. I mean, they were just Anyway,
there's some enhancements, but anyway, right. So the movie begins like when we last left our heroes. Spock died, and that's how the movie ended. This Genesis planet being created and Spock's coffin.
Yeah, we're literally coming back into the last movie through Spock's dying last words, do not grieve for me, Admiral. For it is said that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one.
And
I have been... Okay, sorry.
It's good because we see that again. Spock died saving the Enterprise. So they could get away from the Genesis planet, the Genesis device being activated and the Genesis planet being created, right?
Right.
All right, and they replay that last scene from the movie, and this little tiny screen that zooms in.
Right, and we're back at the funeral before we shoot his body out into space with Kirk giving the last, of all the souls I've encountered throughout the galaxy, his was the most Human.
And yeah, they catch you up because really Star Trek 2, 3, and 4 all, and I kind of like this, they form a very cohesive story arc.
Yeah, it's weird. They become like one book. I don't know if they were meant to be that way originally. I think it was accidental, honestly.
Yeah.
And they're so separate from the first movie.
Yeah.
The Star Trek The Motion Picture.
Everyone forgot about that first movie, yeah.
It was like Wrath of Khan had been a reboot of that movie with the same actors, where they were like, no, let's really amp this up more. Let's make this more Star Wars. You know? Before J.J. Abrams, mind you.
Yeah.
Which some fans, yes, disagreed with back then even, and were pissed off about. Fans are always pissed off of Star Trek, I think, honestly.
Yeah. So anyway. First question, is there's a sun on this Genesis planet? I don't recall there being a sun in that nebula unless the Genesis planet created a sun. Not important. But then we do get that great intro. Everyone's caught up, and then we get cloud names and titles. And we begin with the last movie picked or left off because they're taking the Enterprise back to dock to fix it up. Like immediately after the last movie, we're taking the Enterprise back home. This
feels like it's maybe a week later.
Yeah.
After the incidents of Wrath of Khan.
And the Enterprise is a hoopty. It is beat up.
Boy, and it's floating into space dock there over Earth in the orbit. And space dock is this big mushroom-looking model by ILM, and this all still looks great, actually. Yeah. And then they fly into space dock, and it's another ginormous model by ILM with still ships composited in there, flying in and out, including the Enterprise and what we see, the Great Experiment, the Excelsior.
The Enterprise limps into space dock, and there's this giant new ship, the Excelsior, which is like cutting edge technology.
Which I love the look of it. It's very, and I heard this was meant to be that it was very Japanese influence in its design. You know, very sleek Japanese influence.
Yeah,
80s Japanese influence, like a car. But I love the look of the Excelsior. Even though clearly in this scene, Scotty does not like the look of it.
Yeah.
Scotty's like, yes, and if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon.
Yeah, and Scotty is everyone else gets some R&R here, but they're sticking Scotty on the Excelsior like immediately, which kind of sucks for Scotty, I think.
I feel bad. He never sleeps in this movie. How the fuck does he ever sleep? Honestly, is Scotty on cocaine in this movie? No,
I think so. That's how you get to be a miracle worker. Lots of cocaine.
Yeah. I mean, he was still repairing the Enterprise on the way back. And then, he's got to go straight to the fucking Excelsior. He doesn't get any shore leave like everybody else does, extended shore leave like we hear about in the lineup.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's kind of lame. Then we cut to a vessel that's a human crew, but a Klingon named Valkyris. And she is hailing the commander of a what is it?
Klingon bird of prey ship.
Klingon bird of prey, yeah.
It has a cloaking device. Because it has a cloaking device, it looks invisible. And she says they've been here for quite some time.
Yeah.
Basically, it comes out of nowhere. It's invisible. It comes out of nowhere in outer space. It's a bigger ship than this Scout class looking ship.
Yeah.
Once again, a really cool ship designed by ILM. Was not in the TV series ever.
Yeah,
until later on in the Next Generation. Yeah.
And I really love the design of the Klingon ship in this, which they reuse later on, but it's just a beautiful ship. It's threatening. It looks awesome.
It has these wings that go down when it's going into attack mode. They fold down. They fold upward when they're going to fly afterward or fly away. And apparently this was all Nimoy's idea for this design. He said literally he flexed his arms out like in the meeting and said, I want it to flex its arms when it goes into battle mode. And then I want it to look like it's flying away. And I think it was Bill George, the model maker at ILM, also had an input in designing this, and he was the one that came up with the wing flap on there that you see in the movie, which is it's so cool. Anyway, I'm sorry, I could go on forever about the bird of prey look.
So anyway, they hail the Klingon commander of the vessel is Krug, or however you say his name. I guess it's Krug, right?
Lord Krug. Yeah, you're right.
Lord Krug. And who plays Lord Krug?
Played by Christopher Lloyd from Taxi and Back to the Future. Reverend Jen from Taxi. Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
And he also played the villain in Who Framed Roger Rabbit as well a few years later, right?
Another movie by Robert Zemeckis, absolutely.
Yeah. And so anyway, she sends over some data, right, in this 8-track that she sticks in the console. And then the Klingons look at their 1980s cathode ray TV tubes, That's the level of technology the Klingons have here, right? And
It's not even in the wall. It just, it's, like
it's just
it's
literally
Commodore size
sticking out.
screen. Yeah.
And Krug has a slimy Klingon dog puppet as a pet.
I love the pet, man. I keep wanting to make one for myself, like they'll sit next to my easy chair, But no, anyway. No, side note,
a model,
too.
you mean, not like genetically engineer a Klingon dog.
No, not genetically engineered, but a full-size puppet just to sit next to my chair.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm creative like that. But
yeah.
No, I was going to say about the casting of Chris Lloyd. Apparently the studio said to Nimoy, "Are you sure?" The studio could only picture him as Reverend Jim. You think he'll be threatening enough? And Nimoy looked at them and went, "Don't talk to me about typecasting, please."
That's funny.
Especially him, the guy who played the Vulcan.
And what other notable 80s TV actor is on the bridge as well, playing a Klingon?
Oh, you went there. I was wondering if you spotted that one. Mr. John Larroquette.
I spotted that one, yep.
From TV's Night Court.
Night Court.
Sir John Larroquette, the great John Larroquette, my God.
So then Chekhov is getting, as they're docking back at the space station. Chekhov
did leave out this important. We did leave out this important.
We did leave out the fact that Chekhov, on their way there, gets an energy reading from Spock's quarters, and his doors are forced, right? And Kirk goes in to investigate, right? And there's some security guards with old early 1900s football helmets there, which I thought.
Yeah, they've got some early 1900s jock gear on that looks like 23rd century protective armor. I don't know why in the 23rd century these guards look so protective. I mean, I thought everything was so passive in this 23rd century setting, but yeah.
I know you don't normally see Star Trek like security folks in like armor. It's pretty interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, but they had sealed Mr. Spock's quarters, and Kirk says, the crew seems to be a sense of behavior about Mr. Spock's death. Something like that. But yeah, Kirk goes in the quarters where it's been broken in and got caution tape and these two security guards. He brushes past them. He goes in to investigate in the dark and he hears Spock's voice, which is creepy.
Yeah.
And he's saying, Jim, why didn't you leave me on Genesis? Jim, why did you do that? Jim, I need some milk and cookies. No.
Who does he find? He finds Spock.
He finds George Burns and Gracie. No.
All right, Grandpa. He finds Bones.
He finds Bones impersonating Spock really well.
And
Spock's voice.
Yeah, DeForest Kelley is great in this whole movie. But he's really great in this first part, for sure.
But it's great because DeForest Kelley uses his own voice and says, remember. And it's clearly DeForest Kelley. I mean, before that, they just had Leonard Nimoy dubbing, Spock over the scene. But it's DeForest Kelley at the end of the scene really selling it, going, remember. Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, Spock is saying, take me back to Vulcan, pretty much, and take me to Mount Seleia.
Yeah, climb the steps of Mount Seleia. All this for some reason, but we don't know why yet still. Yeah. And then we are in a lineup. We're back at the space station, and the Enterprise is 20 years old. They're going to decommission it. As we're being told by the guy, the admiral in the lineup, basically talking to Kirk and telling him that Enterprise is going to be decommissioned because it's over 20 years old, which is kind of weird from what I hear in reality comparison, because apparently subs go on for more than 20 years, and so do space shuttles even.
Yeah.
So this is like definitely for plot.
Shuttles. Yeah.
But anyway, only to serve the plot more than anything, I guess. But yeah,
it's the future, Jordan. It's the future.
Yes.
You know how fast technology goes now. What about in the future? Jeez.
You're right. That makes more sense. You're right. 23rd century technology probably was faster. So they're like, it's just, if a cell phone goes out of a date after a year, then you're right. Why wouldn't Enterprise go after a date after, 20 years? You're right.
Yeah, and plus the warranties run out. You know what I mean. Anyway.
It had a built-in obsolescence, this Enterprise.
Yeah. the battery's not charging like it used to. It's kind of like getting wonky, glitchy.
It doesn't matter that, they spent like the last 5 years refitting it for no reason whatsoever, other than it to be decommissioned in 5 years. Yeah, anyway.
Typical Starfleet pork. Wasting taxpayer dollars. That's all I got to say. Yeah. So anyway, Kirk wants to go back to Genesis, but there's a big controversy about that. Some top secret black ops, dark money. The government covering up Genesis. They don't want anyone to know about this. It's off limits.
The Admiral tells him and everybody in the whole lineup not to discuss your knowledge of Genesis to anybody, just to consider it quarantine subject, basically.
Yeah. And so anyway, but going back to the Klingons, what does Krug do after he gets the data tapes or the data transmission?
Yeah. So yeah, we're in outer space. We come upon the scout ship. Valkyrie sends this A-track, as you said, tape over with a signal, with a undisclosed document, whatever.
Yes.
And then
and Valkyrie
picks it
Valkyrie,
up. Valkyrie says, "It's what you're looking at. I've seen it. It's what you need." And he says, "You've seen this already? Well, you're not. You're gonna have to go now. You're gonna have to. I love you. Bye."
Yeah. Of Klingons could love, but that's his girlfriend. That's his BFF. That's his love. That's
clearly there was something going on between them. But the thing is, you see this early on, and you'll notice this later on. You might have picked up on this, Anthony.
Yeah.
Even though you don't watch this movie as many times as I have, but the Klingons love to die with honor. To be killed is to die with honor. To be killed in battle.
Yeah.
By somebody else's hand is to die with honor. It's a sacrifice for the rest of Klingons.
He better kill her, because if she's like an Earth female, oh man, she's gonna.
But he has a reason to kill her.
You tried to kill me? No, hell no. That's cold blooded. That's the worst breakup ever, right there.
Oh yeah, but in Klingon, that's like a big thing.
That's like, let's just be friends in Klingon, like.
But yeah, she's seen it, the tapes and all that, which is a Genesis tape. This time with Kirk on there, not with BB Besh from the last movie, because sadly I think she died before this movie. Mm-hmm. She died prematurely, unfortunately. Yeah. But anyway.
So the Klingons get this tape, and then there's some exposition and replayed scenes from the last movie, of the Genesis.
And we get to see this ILM shot again, this early CG shot of the ILM describing Genesis, basically, and how it's gonna, and literally, and it's a beautiful, it's still a great fucking CG shot, even though it's dated. You can only imagine how long it took to do that back then.
Oh, but it's really cool. It shows a planet being basically terraformed
right there in front of you. Yeah. Before your eyes.
And they're like, we spent money on this effect, Jordan. We're going to use it. We're going to milk that thing for as much as we can. If we can bring it back in part 4, we'll bring it back,
Man, do they reuse shots during all these movies, I've noticed. Yes. Time and time again, as I watch these movies again, I notice how they reuse shots for economy. And it also helps for time as well, to pad out the movie even, kind of.
Nobody will notice. Anyway, so Krug wants the secret of Genesis, to use it as a weapon, and he goes to the planet.
This is where we meet John Larroquette as well, after they've seen the tape later on.
Yeah.
Oh, we're skipping ahead a bit, maybe, but,
Then we see the Star Trek, or a Starfleet ship, the science vessel Grissom.
Yeah, USS Grissom.
Dr. David Marcus, Kirk's son. He's back from the second movie. Kirk found out, or he knew he had a son, but met his son, so to speak, in the last movie. Played by Merritt Buttrick.
Same actor, from the last movie.
Reprising his role. But who is not reprising their role as the Vulcan officer Savick, played by Kirstie Alley in the last movie?
Yeah, it was Kirstie Alley in the last movie. Her agents tried to get her more money for this movie, and the Paramount Star Trek people said, no. You're not going to get that amount of money. And they basically declined the offer, and they were like, we'll recast her. We don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So we're going to recast her with Miss Robin Curtis, who did an equal job, as good, in my opinion. She did a comparable job.
Some people might say that. Yeah. But did they think we wouldn't notice? She looks nothing like Kirstie Alley.
Well, this was the first Star Trek movie I ever saw as a kid. I didn't know Kirstie Alley had done that before, but I hadn't seen Wrath of Khan yet, so I was just like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. I think Savick's pretty.
So then they sent Spock's photon torpedo coffin, and this is from the last movie, and they also sent an animal life form on this planet that, well, I don't know. There turns out there's more life on this planet than the one thing they sensed. But then I don't think this captain's doing a very good job acting. I forgot this actor's name.
Oh, they find, that there's a life form still. They find that there is a life on Genesis beyond just Genesis itself, as they find. Yeah. From the Grissom ship, which is hovering over Genesis, still investigating what's going on with it, essentially. I guess this is what they have in place of the Regular One of the first movie. Since Regular One, I guess, is no longer operational, Grissom is anyway.
Yeah, and this is like Paul Sorensen, I think, is the captain, and he's just phoning it in. I don't know. It's like, can we get someone else in here? Cut. Jeez.
And yeah, he doesn't think it's a good idea to beam down and investigate because it's a new atmosphere. They're still investigating all that. And they need to get, they still need to get approval from Federation still for some things.
Yeah.
But yeah, he says, as a captain, it's the captain's discretion to let you beam down. I don't know if you want to let you beam down or not. Yeah, it's like Doug McClure is the captain.
Yeah, I wish Doug McClure was the captain. God, get some acting in there. And yeah, I mean, he's the kind of guy that looks like he's just going to be killed by some Klingons later. You know what I mean?
And their set that they're on, once again, is the Enterprise set. Just shifted around for angle, just different angles, shifted differently.
Recycled, repurposed, reused.
But yeah, once again... Yeah. They don't waste nothing here with Paramount and the Star Trek people at Paramount at this time.
No, they don't. And there's a depressing party with the old crew because the Enterprise is going to be decommissioned.
We're back at Kirk's home right here.
Yeah.
In San Francisco. And he lives in a big high-rise apartment. You can tell by the view. If you look really closely, there's this building in the background. First of all, the background, by the way, fun fact, is a big backdrop left over from Towering Inferno that they borrowed.
That is a fun
section
fact.
of it behind there, yeah.
Yeah, and I like how Kirk has a bunch of old memorabilia.
Antiques.
Or antiques, I should say. Antiques.
Yeah.
And nautical antiques and relics of a bygone era. And this is like in the last movie and this one.
This set is left over from the last movie once again because we don't waste nothing here, Anthony.
It's a sweet pad, man. I like it.
The only thing missing is the Commodore 64 computer that was in the background of the first movie because William Shatner was a sponsor on the Commodore.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they're all drinking out of these great test tube looking glasses. And Kirk makes this toast that you will see later in a J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie again, which is To Absent Friends.
Yeah, and not only are they upset because they've lost Spock, but also they're all aging. You know what I mean? Their Enterprise days are over. And Kirk is really, especially Kirk is feeling...
They're all on shore leave right now. It's a little... And they just came off Spock dying, and they don't know what's going to happen to McCoy. There's no word on McCoy yet.
And Kirk, despite feeling young at the end of the last movie, seeing the Genesis planet born, is feeling old again. I mean, this guy.
Yeah, that's weird. The last movie ended more on a hopeful note, right?
Yeah.
But this is like a real downer at the beginning of this movie at first,
Yeah. And so anyway...
Well, then we hear the doorbell ring, and we think it's McCoy. And who is it? It's Spock's father, Sarek.
Yeah. Ambassador Sarek, Vulcan.
Mark Leonard, who was also in the Planet of the Apes TV show, playing General Urko.
Yeah, I think he played Sarek several times. That was a good role for him. Yeah.
He did, actually. Yeah, and he played a Romulan in the original series.
Yeah.
Okay, I said I wasn't a Star Trek fan. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit of a fan. Okay.
So Spock's father crashes the party, rude.
He says, I will speak with you alone, Kirk.
And so...
And everybody just gets the fuck out.
Yeah, everyone's like, time for me to go,
Yeah, they're like, I'm going to that after party that I know about on the other side of town with some Ferengis and some Romulans.
But Downer Kirk is not invited to. Yeah, get drinking Romulan ale there.
But Sarek crashed Kirk's party, so Kirk is going to be drinking alone at the end of the evening.
Yeah. And so anyway, he says, why did you leave Spock on Genesis? Only his body was dead, but you should have brought his katra, his essence, his spirit to me, or to Vulcan. He's guilt tripping him hard. Like, how is Kirk supposed to know all this?
And we'll hear about the katra later on in a Seinfeld episode years later. Repeat it again, but that's beside the point. Anyway, but like he says, why did you leave? And he says, and Kirk says, I knew of no such thing, more or less. And he says he wouldn't have spoken of it openly. And Kirk finally gets it in his head what he's talking about. But then Sarek mind melts with him and figures out Kirk's telling the truth.
Yeah, because he thinks that Spock at the end of the movie, he saw the end of the movie, and he thought that part 2, and he thought that Spock uploaded his katra into Kirk, and that didn't happen, right?
Yeah, well, Kirk says in this scene, maybe he melded with somebody else. Spock would have found a way, But yeah, and then later on, he replays the last scene of the last movie for Sarek. Literally, luckily, it looks like a work print of the scene from the last movie. There's no music. There's just audio and dialogue, and there's scratches on the film, and it's not even anamorphic. It's like pan and scan still.
Yeah, and drink every time you see footage from the second movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is like the third or fourth time that we've padded film length by showing the clips from the last movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So Kurt goes to the film editor. In his, he's looking at this on like a film editor.
He's like,
I don't know.
I need to see Reel 4. I need to see it on the edit droid by Lucasfilm.
And looks at, I hate when people do this in movies, like security footage in quotes, that is exactly shot and edited like, the movie.
One, this has a voiceover even. Security footage whenever it's almost Blade Runner like too.
Yeah.
Like Blade Runner influence because he's replaying it and he's like,
Replay.
Yeah. And then so Sarek says, they figure out it's Bones that has Spock in him. So he's like, you've got to bring me Bones. And I was thinking Bones and Spock, they're like in one body. What would you call that? Would you call that Spones? Bonock? Kind of like Benifer or something? I don't know. Anyway, that is
you have to bring Spones to the steps of Mount Salea. It's my best Mark Leonard. I've never attempted Mark Leonard before, but that's all it sounds like just from watching. Yeah. It's weird. I was just watching the old Planet of the Apes TV series with Mark Leonard playing Galen. He's great, too. I think he's a great fucking actor, man. Great Shakespearean trained actor. Probably meant for better Shakespearean roles. He probably
was really good.
Like Franco Zeffirelli's Hamlet movie and shit.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, he should have done more Hamlet shit, probably. That's all I'm saying is shit. Shit, man. Shit.
So Saavik and... Saavik and... Watch your mouth. This is a family podcast. Saavik and Dr. Marcus...
Yo, man, don't be fronting me on this podcast, Anthony. Yo, I'm sorry. Just talking Mark Leonard and shit.
Saavik and Dr. Marcus beam down to the planet to investigate the life signs, and they find the microbes on the... and I guess those are some microbes that survived re-entry. And how did Spock's coffin gently land on the planet? Why didn't it crash and burn up in the atmosphere? I don't know. Anyway,
are you trying to say Saavik? Because when you say it, it hurts my ears. No, I'm sorry. I'm just messing with you. But no.
How was I saying it?
Saavik.
Oh, I guess. I know.
It's not a Jewish Friday holiday.
Is it not?
No, you're right though. It should have had more of a crash landing feel. Spock's coffin on Genesis.
And I know somebody's gonna.
Actually, Anthony, the coffins have inertial dampers on them, and
thanks, facts guy. All right, we got it.
After Saavik and David eventually beam down onto Genesis, they find microbes microbes. Ew, yucky! These ugly, yucky microbes growing under, which is a great mechanical makeup effect by I think Berman Studios.
Yeah, they've evolved into flounder fillets, like living flounder fillets.
I'm your audience here on that one.
They find Spock's robe and they hear a scream as there's this earthquake. But yeah, I want to pause on those.
Yeah.
I want to pause on that because Jordan. Okay, they detected...
Wait. I remember. I think I saw a TikTok video where the guy was like, "Can I get a No. Yo?"
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
So they detected only one life form on the planet, but then there's a whole bunch of these crawling, slimy flounder things.
You're right, and there's not more of that part of the movie. Like, this is science fiction. You don't if you introduce something, you can't just leave it open ended like that. You're right. There could have been more interesting stuff with that stuff. Now that I think about it,
yeah, somebody should have said, maybe they did, was like, oh, we didn't detect these or something because of reasons. I don't know.
Yeah. No, they should have left that out. It was interesting for atmosphere, but yeah, that should have been played out more, I guess, shouldn't that have?
Yeah. I mean, we paid for this planet, Jordan. We might as well use it. Let's have everyone walk around for 10 minutes or something,
And we paid Berman Studios to make these little rubber thingies that are going to be under the coffin with monofilament attached to them. So we better use them, folks. They better grow into something horrible and horrendous.
Need to bring one back. Yeah. So anyway, that it does pay off, I guess, a little later. But anyway, so back at home, back on Earth, Kirk is convincing the head of Starfleet that because of some Vulcan voodoo, he wants to take Enterprise back to Genesis. And of course, that doesn't fly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. We have to stop because I got to talk about this presidential Starfleet lounge they're drinking in.
Yeah.
I want to go there. And I always love this scene because I want to stay here and drink at this presidential Starfleet lounge with its beautiful glasses and its beautiful orange and blue drinks going through and whatever the fuck Kirk is messing with on the table there that are like I don't know, is that the 23rd century pretzel with beer cheese like combination? You just bite into it and it tastes like that all in one. I don't know. I want to drink in the same fucking lounge.
It calls to the alcoholic in you who wants to be in schmancy surroundings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you just don't have enough airline miles to get into that place. Or 20 years of serving in Starfleet, Jordan. Why don't you try that? They don't just hand that key out to everybody.
Well, I got to drink at a presidential lounge at an airport because of my dad's miles one time. But yeah, and it was close to this experience maybe. But, this is the 23rd century version, Anthony.
Well, Jordan, even in the 23rd century, you should travel more and rack up those miles with Priceline.
Priceline.com, Anthony. Did you say Priceline, Anthony? I can't stop doing Shatner during this podcast. Drink every time I do Shatner, people out there.
Yeah. And the dad joke of the podcast was brought to you by Romulan Ale. Romulan Ale. Am I supposed to be drinking this?
Yeah, why is there no Romulan Ale in this movie at all? There's no mention of Romulan Ale like the last movie, the one that, for you people out there, that McCoy brought over to Kirk at his apartment and said, beware, Romulans burying gifts.
Yeah.
I only drink it for medicinal reasons.
Yeah. So Bones goes into the callback cantina where people are playing like 3D biplane games, right? And playing with tribbles.
Once again, I want to drink at this place too. My God, this is another 23rd century drinking spot here that I want to just hang out in once again. It's got holographic video games. It's got these beautiful waitresses with weird purple and silver hair and all that.
Yeah. And a great place to have a birthday party. And this
great place to do it.
I just want to plug your new podcast, Jordan Drinks the Movies. Jordan talks about scenes and sets in movies that he would just like to drink an alcoholic beverage in.
And get high in, for that matter.
Yeah.
The legal stuff. Well, at least where I live, it's legal.
So anyway, a weird alien comes up, and then Bones says he needs a passage to the Alderaan system. I mean...
and he says, passage, maybe, Anthony. Maybe now, no. Permits required, yes.
Bones wants a passage to the Mutara sector.
The Mutara sector. There ain't gonna be any damn permits. How can there be any permits for anything illegal? Damn it! How can you be deaf for the ears like that? Man, yeah, he really. This scene is great. I love this scene. But yeah, clearly this is clearly them.
Ripping off the Star Wars cantina scene.
There's a little Star Wars influence here with the Star Trek franchise. Maybe, yes. Maybe, yes, maybe.
No, but anyway, so then Federation security comes up and they apprehend him for talking about Genesis, right? Like the damn Federation pigs.
Yeah, because McCoy says it out loud, and there happens to be a Federation security guy nearby having a drink on that same Saturday night when McCoy is out looking for an illegal charter.
He wasn't at the briefing. He was, in sick bay or something, right? Where the crazy person sick bay. So I don't blame Bones here. I'm taking Bones' side.
Oh, but the guy overheard him.
Yeah, he should know that. Yeah, but I love the scene because Bones attempts a Vulcan neck pinch.
Yeah, he does.
Because Spock's in him. There's a lot of humor in this movie. I really have to say.
I love DeForest Kelley in this movie, honestly. DeForest Kelley, I don't know. DeForest Kelley should have got an Oscar for this movie. I said it, yeah.
Wow. Slow year at the Oscars, huh?
DeForest Kelley was a great actor, though. He was underestimated, is all I'm saying. I don't know,
You're like, terms of endearment? No. Star Trek 3? Yes. Let's hand out some awards to this fine film.
Yeah, Star Trek 4 was a minor movie that year by Oscar, but by box office wise, it was a big movie. Anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, Bones is being taken to the Federation Funny Farm, military psychiatric prison, right? And then Kirk sees Bones, and it's a good dialogue here, and he tells Bones about the whole mind meld. Here's what's happening. And then Bones says, oh, that, damn Vulcan, it's revenge for all those arguments he lost.
Oh, yeah. Kirk visits him inside this little,
cell.
Federation cell, basically, or whatever, holding area, or Federation loose derrick Bones is being held in. Yeah. Kirk is able to gain access because he's Admiral Kirk still, technically. Anyway, and the guy lets him in. He says, be careful. He's going to be escorted to the Federation Funny Farm, which, goddamn, even in the 23rd century sounds insulting.
I thought that was very insulting. Yeah, I was like, that's a little... I don't know about that, man. It's like, can we get a check? Can we not use those words?
Yeah, like we learned in The Next Generation that they cared about mental health so much that they did away with the death penalty, I thought. I'm confused. I don't mean to. I'm sorry, Star Trek. Once again, you're not sticking with your own logic here. Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kirk gives him some Lexer thing, as he calls it, so he can fly, he says. But yeah, I love how he holds up those fingers, in the Vulcan hand salute. He says, how many fingers am I holding up? He says, that's not very damn funny.
Yeah. So then Sulu shows up outside, and there's a guard out there, and the guard's giving Sulu some shit. Talk about
he's like, keeping you busy? He's like, don't get smart, Tiny.
Yeah, you want to talk about not sensitive here.
These guards are dicks, man.
They're
assholes, they look like
man.
They got twins to play these stunt guys. Looks like they were stunt twins, and which makes you wonder, though, because it's the 23rd century, are these clones from the Tubi farm? Not to be insulting to them.
Yeah.
The clone farm, the replicant farm, whatever. I'm just saying, are they clones maybe?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to find good security guys. You can find one, clone him,
It's clearly played by twins. One has a mustache and one doesn't. It's bizarre.
I don't know. Double your pleasure there, Jordan. You get two twins and probably half price. Two for the price of one.
Don't get smart, Tiny.
Yeah, so anyway, Kirk punches out the other security guard, and then Sulu beats up the guard who called him Tiny. What does he say, Jordan?
Don't call me Tiny. My best George Takei. I love George Takei's voice, by the way.
Yeah. And then we see Lieutenant Uhura, and some young buck is giving some sass to her about how he wants adventure and sitting at this transporter comm.
It's a transporter in the space dock area, I guess, or closer to space dock, maybe. I guess
she's an officer. Why?
She's passing time there. I thought she would be on shore leave too. You're right.
Yeah, she's a goddamned officer, and he's talking this craziness to her. I'm surprised. Anyway. Yeah. I just don't think this movie is very modern in its sensibilities. You realize that at times.
Oh, yeah, because he says to her, I'd like an adventure or two. Maybe just a surprise or two, And she says, you know what they say, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Nichelle Nichols looks so sexy, by the way.
Yeah. Not as much as 6, though. Anyway. Okay, so Kirk shows up with Bones and Scotty and Sulu, and then they step onto the teleporter, and then...
The transporter,
The transporter, sorry. And then Uhura transports him down. Well, first she pulls a gun on that asshole and pushes him into a closet.
Yeah. Clearly, he looks like he likes this adventure, though, now. Finally, he likes it a lot better, being stuck on this dock area or whatever. But yeah, you're right. This is all wrong here.
This is all weird. And they've been in space for so long. I mean, they should grab that guy, put a red shirt on him, right? And take him down, bring him down to the planet so he could be the guy who gets killed. You know what I mean?
Must have been really bored too and got that job really quickly. When I thought about it really more, I'm sorry, the logic behind it, because I thought she'd be on shore leave.
It's a setup. It's a whole, Star Trek loves a whole sort of heist atmosphere, pulling off a plan,
Yeah. Like I said, the fans just might as well give up on complaining about connecting the dots or anything on here, because Star Trek never connects the dots properly. It never sticks to its own continuity properly, completely.
Actually, Jordan,
no, I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm not worried about that. This is a movie. We're having fun.
I mean, yeah, I love it all. I'm not complaining. I mean, but yeah, I'm going to throw this out there, though. The Bird of Prey looks different in the next movie. I'll just throw that out there. Anyway.
Damn. Shots fired across the bow.
There's no continuity there.
Shields up over
here. It should look
here.
exactly the same, but they were like, no, let's have a bigger set for no reason at all. And not even explain it. Let's have a bigger, wider set for no reason at all.
Jordan's engaging. He's launching the critical photon torpedoes over here. Dang.
And all you can explain it as, Anthony, is just like it's another level of the Bird of Prey ship. Anyway.
So she beams him onto the ship, and then, or right before they go, Kirk gives everyone an out. And it's like, hey, I'm going to the Genesis planet. You don't have to come with me. This is it. You can be court-martialed.
This is after
they'd be court-martialed for everything they did up until that moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just going to Genesis is gonna push them over the edge there. They're already going to be court-martialed. You know what I mean?
I went on about the lounge.
They're going to lose their access to that presidential lounge, Jordan.
Yeah. I went on about the presidential lounge scene earlier, but yeah, exactly. Kurt's going to lose that executive privilege real quickly there.
He's risking a lot.
That dude, we forgot to mention, I mean, because I went on about that lounge and how I wanted to drink there, that dude gave him the big no, and Kirk walked out of there and said, you know, as Sulu said, "The answer, sir?" And he said, "The answer is no. I'm therefore going anyway." And then, yeah, they snuck onto the Enterprise. Scotty's helps them after Scotty's left the Excelsior and telling the Excelsior to go up its shaft.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm skipping ahead a bit. But yeah, they all get on the beat up Enterprise, which is parked in the space dock still there.
Yeah.
With the lights off, basically.
Now, Jordan, can 5 people run a goddamn starship? I mean, for real.
Surely they could. I'm sure they could.
I'm sure they could.
5 people, sure.
Actually, Anthony, Scotty said they automated all the systems. And in episode 12 of the original series, and not to mention 37 of the Next Generation.
No.
No.
All you need is Scotty and Sulu, goddammit. That's all you
just need Scotty and Sulu and some strings tied to levers on the other side of the bridge. That's all you need.
All you need is Scotty and Sulu and maybe Chekhov. Oh, wait, Chekhov is there. Oh, he is there. He doesn't get hurt this one. Thank God he doesn't get hurt this time around in this movie. Chekhov.
Yeah, they
Bless
beat
his
up
heart.
poor
He gets
Chekhov.
hurt all the time. They beat up that old Russian every time.
And so then they leave the space dock, and that's good backing up skills there. They back it up out.
We have to. This scene I love. This scene is so suspenseful, I think. Trying to get out of space dock.
And the doors won't open. The doors are closed.
The doors won't open. You don't know whether the doors open. The Celsior has gotten in on this as a security issue. The captain we meet is Doogie Howser's father, played by James B. Sikking.
And who is on the bridge, Jordan? Who's the first officer?
Miguel Ferrer is operating the fucking deck. Even.
And who is Miguel Ferrer for everybody?
From fucking RoboCop 1987, at least. Just saying Bob Morton and RoboCop is operating the deck, yeah.
But yeah, the Excelsior's gassing up, and it's ready to go. It's going to stop them.
And this is already after we've seen Scotty and James B. Sikking pass each other, you know, and he's like, "I'm looking to be an Enterprise records." He's been this captain of the Excelsior is real arrogant, as we've seen. So we don't really give a fuck what happens to the Excelsior. We're kind of on Kirk's side at this point, even as the audience. We're like, fuck them. Fuck Space Dog. Fuck all them, man. Yeah. We're going to fucking rock this thing out of here, fucker. No, I'm just joking.
So, yeah, stealing the Enterprise, stealing Starfleet
This scene
property.
is suspenseful, though, with the James Horner music as well, though. And
totally.
You don't know whether they're going to make it through the door, and the acting is really well, and the ILM shots work so well. Even in high def at this point in time as we're watching it.
It's a great scene. You're right. It's probably one of the best scenes. Them backing out of a space station is of the most suspenseful and best scenes of the whole movie. I don't know what that says, but
I love this scene. I have always loved this sequence of this part of the movie. I'm a big fan of this movie, as you've noticed. And
you're a big fan of people leaving space dock slowly.
The stealing the Enterprise sequence out of this is like, I wonder what it looked like in IMAX kind of thing.
Yeah. So anyway, Scotty gets the doors to open, and then they
miraculously,
because it's Scotty, you know.
It's probably, though, honestly, I mean, they're not going to let that thing blow up inside of there. Think about it, right? It's a security thing, right? To explain it.
I don't think they're going to blow up the Enterprise, Jordan. I don't think they're going hardcore. They're going to.
Like the
that'd
space
be a
dock,
public relations disaster if they shot the Enterprise inside a space dock. Yeah,
and also the space dock probably has this security kind of self-contained security thing when the doors are opening. I'm just guessing, and where it's like, you know, they don't want something that big to not exit if it's that close to the doors.
There should be some spikes that just blow out the tires as it tries to go backward. You know.
Yeah,
but that doesn't happen. No, they get out.
Yeah,
but Starfleet. I mean, they're going to just. Look, the captain of the Excelsior is just going to go after them. They've got transwarp drive, right? Whatever the hell that is. And they're just going to track them down. And
transwarp drive, Anthony. Come on. You know what that is.
They're not going to let this...
No, I'm just messing with you. I'm sorry.
My 2009 Prius had a transwarp drive on it. It was pretty cool.
Oh man, I wanted it for my Toyota Corolla 2019, and it didn't come with it. But it did come with a CD player.
You didn't get the luxury package, man. You got to pay that extra money
For the Transwarp.
Transwarp drive and a CD player.
But you have to use diesel gas with that, and it does cost more.
That's right. So anyway, they're just gonna outrun the ship. It's an old heap of junk, Jordan, and it's limping through space. And they're just going to go up and engage the tractor beam. This is all going to be over and embarrassing for the crew and, whatever. But then what happens, Jordan? The Excelsior is about to power up and chase after them as the Enterprise goes into warp. And then what happens?
It goes... It comes to a grinding halt for no reason, and then the screen comes up, "Good morning, Captain," on the screen.
I love the sounds of the ship breaking down because I've heard that so many times in my car.
I love that sound. Yeah, that sound. I wonder where they got that sound effect. That's a great fucking sound effect. This is not even Ben Burt working on this movie. This is but this sound effect, how they came up with it, is brilliant on this movie, and I love even cranking it up on the big speakers if I have it, or the headphones. Yeah, Scotty sabotaged the ship, so they were planning ahead here. And Scotty passes these little chippy-looking things to McCoy and says, "From one sergeant to another, I took out its transwarp drive chips," or whatever it was, and he basically he took out its transwarp drive shit, so it could not take off properly. So the Enterprise, of course, beat its speed drive is and they don't have another ship that can. It's a space station. They don't have another ship that could just kind of go out there real quick. It's just like, well. Also, we saw the inside of Space Dock. There was nothing other than an Excelsior inside there in the Enterprise. Yeah. Those were the biggest fucking ships in there. I guess everything's out on 5-year missions. Yeah, they'd have to find something else in some other dry dock area outside of orbit, like you saw in the first movie. So then we go back to the Genesis planet, and Savick and David are down there, and they find a Vulcan child. It's Spock. His cells regenerated because of some magic. It's got some Vulcan ears, and they wrap it up in Mr. Spock's burial robes, like for a blanket kind of thing, because he's a little he's 5 or 6 at this point. Anyway, and then the captain is a bitch. He doesn't want to bring a kid on board. You know what I mean? He's just like, this is like a scene out of Alien. He's like, he doesn't want to. He's like, what about contamination? Which he's got a point. Yeah, it's from a foreign planet that they grew at. He's like, we don't have any chicken nuggets. Don't bring this kid on board. These kids are, contamination. He's like, kids are just vectors for disease. This kid, it's like I don't know, Discovery Zone ball pit. Don't bring that plague onto this ship. I'm not going through the drive-through with this one, okay? If you beam him up, that means the captain has to go through the drive-through on this one. Yeah. This is captain's discretion. I was doing the captain's voice as best I could for you, Anthony. Thank you. I appreciate it. Going all the way for the podcast, Jordan. You're right. We don't have chicken nuggets and a Happy Meal here. Sorry. I don't have a bag of Cheerios. What is this, We're not in the business of kid sitting. He's an asshole. So anyway, the Klingons decloak and then accidentally blow up the ship. Like, whoopsie. A lucky shot, sir, he says in Klingon. Yeah. And then Krug shoots his ass right there. He disintegrates his ass right there. Literally, we see him disintegrate his ass. It's great. It's cool. Yeah, you were just supposed to, take out the engines but in this scene, they shift from Klingon to English, which is really weird. But, yeah. They think we wouldn't. Save it, Torg! And then Savick somehow knows that the Grissom is destroyed because they're not responding. And I'm like, didn't you see the last movie or any other Star Trek movie? Like, that's just because somebody's not responding doesn't mean that the ship is blown up. I mean, here it does. Usually, you're right. Like, what if it got held hostage or taken over? Exactly, by somebody like Khan once again. Yeah, and you're the ground crew before he tortured them and killed them. Yeah, and put ear things in their ears. Yeah, exactly. Little earbugs. And the ground crew in all these instances has to find some way to sneak up back to the ship and then save everybody because the ship's bbeen taken over by whatever it is. Doesn't she know that? Hasn't she read? She's never seen Star Trek before. Anyway. Here comes that guy from, the guy that shows up in the Red Letter Media podcasts and the logic guy from all the other movies. Yeah, exactly, Anthony. I agree with you. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit in with the logic of the other Star Trek stuff. Anyway. I got agreed to by the facts guy. This is amazing.
Agreed with.
But yeah, this is what I also say is the same thing. Star Trek does not stick to its own logic. Like, I've watched the Star Trek DVDs with the trivial notes on the bottom, and they say the same shit, that like it doesn't always fit its logic, its own logic.
Let it go, Jordan. What are you, a Vulcan? Does everything have to be logical? Jordan, does everything have to be logical?
It does not have to be logical. I feel no emotion. But I am human as well as Vulcan, Anthony. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I lost myself in this movie.
So anyway, somehow Grissom knows they're destroyed. I don't know how that is, but Spock is aging along with the planet. The planet's becoming unstable because of proto-matter that David used. He snuck in there to make it. You know what I mean?
He messed with that proto-matter, man. You don't mess with proto-matter, dude. Everybody knows that. You don't fuck with proto-matter. We all know that. No, I didn't know what proto-matter was until this movie, honestly.
Just say no to proto-matter. He got some black market proto-matter, not sustainably sourced.
Savick has reminded him and let the audience, us, know that proto-matter was deemed by ethical scientists not very ethical, essentially, and very dangerous and unstable and unpredictable. And how many people have died because of this? She reminds him as well. She lays the guilt trip on poor David here.
Yeah, there's a lot of guilt trips in this movie.
There is a lot of guilt trips in this movie. You're right, man.
But where did he get that proto-matter? Did he just like drive to a rough neighborhood and he's like, "Hey man, you got any proto-matter? It's gonna cost you, man."
You're right. Oh my God, now you're making me think about this, Anthony. You're just like the microbes on the bottom of Spock's coffin. Like it's something not played out completely.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to nitpick this, but anyway.
Oh my God. Oh, the microbes. Oh, the humanity.
Savick says Spock will soon experience Ponfar. And what is Ponfar for everybody, Jordan?
Well, I didn't want to talk about Ponfar out in the open on this podcast.
Oh, talk about Ponfar out in the open.
Well, it's when a Vulcan goes through puberty, kind of, I think. But Vulcan puberty is not like human puberty. It happens at this weird, different time, I guess, in a Vulcan's
It's
life.
like when Vulcans are in heat, she said, like every 7 years, they get really horny and violent.
Yeah. Unless if they're spayed early on.
Yeah. Spay and neuter your Vulcans, everybody.
Spade your own Vulcan.
Get them their shots.
But yeah, like, no, it happens every 7 years in a Vulcan's life. It also happens in every 7 years of a male human's life.
Every 7 minutes in a male human's life. Because Savick, there's a scene where Savik's like, I guess he's about 12, 13. Savick is knocking at the bathroom door. He's like, "You've been in there a while. What's going on?" He's like, "Don't come in here." And she does. It's an embarrassing scene.
Spock is next to the fire and he's talking about something hurting him really badly. Something we would call blue on Earth is all I'll say.
She comforts him through his horniness here. He's really in pain. Well, you think he's in pain because of that, but he's really also in pain because
he's got morning wood.
Yeah. And so there's Summer of 42 vibes here. She's trying to comfort him. You know what I mean? This is really another scene that's really weird. Do you think that like Back to the Future is creepy with like Marty and his mom? Like something's going on here that this scene makes me uncomfortable.
I just heard that piano music from Summer of 42 just now. But yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right. There is something weird about this scene, yeah. I mean, he's of legal age when they're holding their little two fingers together.
Yeah, they're doing this weird...
performing that Ponfar, you know.
Yeah, caressing finger motion. And I'm like... And then the scene cuts. I'm like, what happened? Like, what it ends abruptly. And I'm like, what happened here?
God, I hate to go here. You brought this up, but I hate to go here, too, because it gets even weirder, Anthony. Because you're talking about this scene being weird, and, you know, we're even wondering if Spock is legal age in this scene once again during the Ponfar
Hey, it's a
ritual.
Genesis planet. There's no law on the Genesis planet.
But there was also I read there was also later on stuff in the next movie indicating that Ponfar scene indicated that Savick might have gotten pregnant off of that somehow.
What? No. Are you serious?
I thought I read that. If I'm wrong, anybody can call me out on it.
You read that in the back of Hustler. You read that on some websites.
I read that in an old magazine called Starlog magazine, which was before the internet. But yeah, I thought it was a deleted kind of thing in Star Trek 4 later on that they were hinting at. when Kirk and Saavik say bye back on. Spoilers for the next movie. Yeah, they're back on Mount Solea still at the beginning of the movie because 4 is literally a continuation after this movie. Much funnier, of course, and much less operatic. But yeah, Kirk is like comforting her, and he says something, I think, in a deleted scene, which is, do you think he knows? Do you think he's gonna know? You know, you think he'll understand, kind of thing, because Spock is still regaining himself, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot for him to take. But I think they left all that out. It's not really, it's left out of in the 4th movie more than you think.
Good.
But I think it was hinted at in the original
it's weird.
drafts.
It's very weird, and I'm glad
but
that...
because they're aliens, this is the way it happens in Alien.
I see. Okay. It's okay because they're aliens.
That's all I'm saying, Anthony. It's just alien stuff, okay, Anthony?
Other cultures,
alien
I get
stuff. It's other cultures. Respect other planets, Anthony. Respect other species in life, right? Yeah, Anthony? That's what we're supposed to do, right, Anthony? Okay.
Yeah. And that's why it's so popular for creepy dudes to go vacation in Vulcan.
What Vulcans do is their business, okay, Anthony? Okay? Their
legal
Pon
over
farr
there.
rituals are their own, okay? I don't know what the fuck
I'm
saying.
glad
sorry.
I'm glad that didn't make the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, fine. Somebody call me out on it out there listening. I will be glad. Anthony and I will welcome the comments.
Somebody go on Starlog Hub, wherever Jordan found this article, this story,
that might be on. You might find the Starlog on archive.org.
But be careful when you're Googling this, guys. Be very careful. Anyway. So
turn on your safe search, okay? When you Google this Pon farr thing about Spock and Saavik in the 3rd and 4th movie, okay? Turn on your safe search. You might not like what's coming up, yeah.
Yeah, this podcast is brought to you by Romulan VPN. If you are looking up weird things from this podcast, be sure to use a VPN so you can't be tracked. Okay. Anyway.
It's also brought to you by Romulan Colt 45 Ale. You know what I like about Romulan Colt 45? The company.
It's blue.
It's blue and the company. And the company's blue.
So anyway,
and green.
Klingons capture them, and then Krug they're on the planet, and then Krug beams up to the ship because the Enterprise arrives.
Oh well, no. Oh, we're in this part, yeah. Basically, yeah, the hostage situation is the Klingon crew beams down to Genesis and finds. We might have skipped over some things, but yeah, they find Kirk's son David, Saavik, and Spock, young regenerating Spock. They find him. The Klingon warriors find him. Krug isn't down there yet, but they find all of them down on the surface of Genesis.
Yeah.
They take him as hostage. They use him as bait because they want this Genesis weapon, which they only have information about, which is disclosed and classified clearly by Federation. But Kirk comes in time on the beat-up Enterprise with his crew, and he's still calling the Genesis. He's still doing the hailing frequencies with Genesis. Genesis, Grissom, this is Enterprise calling, and they hear it down there on. They pick up the communicator.
So Krug is on the ship, and the Klingons are down there.
That's right. He beams down there at first to observe them, and then he beams back up because that's when Kirk comes back in. I'm sorry.
It's kind of weird to me because he's there for a minute just to threaten them.
Because he comes down there and he goes, "What do I find? A weakling human, a Vulcan, and a woman."
and another
it's like insulting, like, and a woman.
Yeah,
like
I don't
Klingons
think this...
like down on human women, but and Vulcan women, I guess, because it's a Vulcan woman technically.
Yeah, he could have said Vulcan, but he went there. Another reason this maybe won't play as well today, but anyway,
John Larroquette calls him back up. He says, "But sir, there's somebody here. There's something here you must see."
Yeah.
And then Kirk and company is there, and then they're still down there, and then Kirk.
And it's kind of a great scene because Kirk sees the distortion because the ship is cloaked, right? And I thought that they couldn't use the transporter when they're cloaked, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But anyway, so Kirk sees the distortion that the cloaking device creates in the stars.
Yeah.
And realizes that, oh man, there's a damn bird of prey.
But Kirk and Krug are talking back and forth via monitor, like the way Khan and Kirk were.
Well, they exchange fire. So the Enterprise shoots the
that's
ship,
right, yeah.
And then the ship returns fire. And the Enterprise is already limping along as it is.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And Kirk says to him on the view screen, this is an act of war, and you're firing the neutral zone, some kind of thing like that.
Yeah. So the Enterprise is hit. And then why is somebody always smoking on Klingon ships? Like off camera, there's somebody just smoking a cigar or something. Klingon ships or I don't know what's going on here. If they allow vaping on Klingon ships, bridges,
it looks
I don't
foggy.
know. Everything's always foggy.
Because the Klingon joints they're smoking.
Yeah.
You know?
So then they pause because the Enterprise isn't doing anything, and Kirk requests, he's bluffing, he requests the surrender of the Klingon ship because the Enterprise could blow it out of the water. It's a much bigger ship.
But they're still trying to act more threatening in the arc as we find out. Scotty's like, I didn't expect to take it into battle.
Yeah. Then Krug says, well, I have 3 prisoners and I'm going to kill, because he knows Kirk is bluffing. And he's like, I'm going to kill one of these prisoners, down on the planet.
Yeah.
So then, they allow Kirk to talk to David and Savick, and they tell him the planet's unstable. They have Spock.
Yeah.
And then Krug offers that one of the prisoners...
David says it's a failure. He says Genesis is dying also at the same time it's regenerating. It's dying. It's a big failure.
Yeah.
I don't know why they want it, why they're after it. And of course...
Well, he wants
Krug
the
doesn't believe
technology,
him.
I guess. Yeah, he doesn't believe them. He believes there's some secret. They all have it, something like that. Then... Krug orders the Klingons to kill one of the 3 prisoners. So we have Savick.
This is fucked up, yeah.
We have David, Kirk's son, and then we have Spock.
Spock, regenerating Spock, yeah.
Young, horny, regenerating Spock. He's got a smile on his face. I want to move past that.
Going through
it's
Ponfar.
Weird. He's already Ponfar'd somehow.
Ponfar explains it, Anthony. He's just going through Ponfar. That's why he's got a smile on his face. Don't ask any more questions.
So anyway, and then what happens?
He says kill one of them, and he says I don't care which one, kill one of them, and the Klingon walks back and forth with a knife. This is it's almost like a Western here. But yeah, and then David just jumps up and wrestles with him because David's like I'm gonna just like Kirk. He's got Kirk's spirit like his dad.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have Kirk's strength, and he dies trying. Unfortunately, he gets stabbed. And Kirk doesn't know what's going on. It's really fucked up here because, Savick is on the intercom saying, your son, David, is dead, without emotion, of course. And Kirk just knelt over in his chair and he's just like, Klingon bastard, kill my son. Which, as a parent, that's fucked up, yeah.
Yeah, it's completely fucked up. It was like, damn, dude, I love this movie for going there.
If I only met my kid in the last movie and I was getting to know him, in the last movie at the end of that movie, and then I barely got to know him at the beginning of this movie.
It's like you said, it's been 2 weeks.
2 weeks, maybe, yeah. I mean, and he didn't get to see his kids' birthday parties growing up because he was off gallivanting all around the galaxy. But he didn't know he had the kid either. He didn't know the whole time.
Yeah, he was kept from the kid by the mother. She's like,
but the mom didn't want him to, as we saw. We saw David's history in the last movie. The mom didn't want, exactly. Mom didn't want him to go out there. She didn't want him moving around early on as a kid.
And I think...
But it makes it that much more sad, I think, in my opinion, as a parent.
Yeah.
Because you realize Kirk didn't get to see everything. He was just getting to know his kid at this point.
Just getting to know his kid.
Yeah, it's a fucking bummer, man. It sucks. It's sad as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Shatner's great in this. I mean, he's
because he was a parent then, is a parent.
Yeah,
he knows what that feels like.
Yeah, you see the grief. It's short lived.
Nimoy said he didn't tell him to slump in the back of the seat like that or down against the chair on the step. The captain's chair when he does that. Nimoy said, I didn't tell him to do that. He said he did that on his own in that take, and I like that take. So that's why I used it,
Yes, Jordan, because he's an actor, Yeah. He's an actor. That's what you get when you hire actors, and say what you want about Shatner, and as cheesy as he is, but he can act in those moments of drama. He can do comedy, he can do drama, he can do all of that.
And this is also why I don't care what anybody says about Star Trek and say it's the bastard child of Wrath of Khan, but it's well directed by Nimoy because he's been through all this before. So
yeah,
So
the Klingons want the Genesis data, like how to make this thing, right? They've already killed Kirk's son, or they didn't know it was Kirk's son, but that didn't work. They're not getting the data, so now they realize that Kirk's bluffing, and they're just going to board the Enterprise, right? The Enterprise is unresponsive. And the Klingons are about to board. And then Jordan, holy Kobayashi Maru. What do? How can Kirk possibly get us out of this?
It's a trap.
What does Kirk do, Jordan? What does he do?
Kirk beams below to the surface of Genesis.
Well, okay, hold on. First, Kirk activates the Enterprise self-destruct sequence.
He activates the self-destruct of the Enterprise, but he needs Scotty and Chekhov and Sulu, I guess, to help him with the codes, because they all have to give their input to the codes.
They're going to blow up the goddamn Enterprise. I love it.
It's kind of sad in a way, yeah. But he's also got, like, Krug on hold on a voice screen call, basically on a video call.
Yeah, he's like, hold on a minute. I'm about to send over the codes.
Just like with Khan, but this is after he's got his, Kirk has had his son killed just now. So who else would be in the same mindset? Like, fuck everything. Fuck everything. Fuck you all. Fuck the Enterprise. I'm going to blow up this bitch. Beam aboard. You're going to fucking all die. But he tricks the Klingon crew to beam aboard. Yeah. Kirk beams down to the surface. They trade beams, I guess, so to speak. And the Klingon crew beams aboard, and there's a beep, beep, a sequencing going on. And the idiot guy in charge of the Klingon crew, like, talks back to Krug on the communicator. He's like, sir, there's only one sound. And he's like, what's the sound? 3, 2, 1. Get out of there!
Yeah. What, no warnings? I mean, it's a fancy starship. It's not going to, warning, this is about to self-destruct. Please leave the... Yeah, I mean, nothing like that. It's just
not like Alien, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, that's... Kirk doesn't have time to even grieve. He gets 1 minute to figure out a plan, execute it.
But Kirk is a guy that they fucked with that's used to losing and people and dying, and he's used to making quick decisions at the same time, so...
Yeah.
He's no spring chicken to these decisions, so that's why, at least, I think.
Yeah. So they beam down to the planet, and then what happens, Jordan? The Enterprise blows up, right?
It blows to Kingdom Come, yeah. I mean, and
it's a wonderful effect.
Great effect by ILM. You see, like, they used a weird effect where they burnt, like, those same kind of cleaning bristles you use in the dishes.
Yeah.
The metal cleaning bristles, where they covered them with, like, rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol and lit them on fire underneath the miniatures to create that kind of lightning effect. Fun fact.
It's a great effect. It's a wonderful explosion. And I love I imagine that.
And it goes down over a beautiful matte painting by ILM once again. And and Kirk says, what have I done? What have I done? To McCoy.
Yeah.
And McCoy says, what you always do. You turn death into a fighting chance to live, which is beautiful.
Yeah, it's great because, they're watching the Enterprise.
But it's sad, yeah.
The Enterprise burn up on re-entry to the Genesis planet. And it's like, that's got to be one of the biggest moments in all film history, I guess.
Yeah, still, even. I think that was bold that they blew up the Enterprise in this movie.
Yeah.
Compared to the last movie. But they had to have these big sacrifices. This is kind of a rehash of Wrath of Khan. I hate to say, but
a little bit.
Bigger elements though, the bigger stakes involved. Kirk's son dies and the Enterprise dies, so it's kind of sad.
I mean, damn though. I mean, it's swinging for the fences. This movie.
This is very operatic, but I think it's almost like it's carrying over the tone of Nicholas Meyer from the last movie.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we see the Enterprise, the hull of the Enterprise, the wreck of the Enterprise burning up on re-entry.
Yeah. And
it's a beautiful scene in a weird way. Visually, it's beautiful,
Yeah, it looks like it still looks great even by ILM.
Like a shooting star,
Yeah, it does. It just looks like a streaking, like, meteorite going down from the planet surface. But then, Kirk finds...
so Kirk finds them.
Spock and Saavik.
Spock and,
And the Klingon.
And, and Spock is just suffering as the planet tears itself apart. And then Kirk and the crew save them.
Spock is suffering with the planet.
And then Kirk hails Krug and tells him that he's got the secret of Genesis, but beam us up to get it. And then Krug doesn't buy that. He beams down. Krug is pretty smart for a Klingon. You know what I mean? He doesn't fall for all this BS, I think.
Yeah, like, he must have thought there was going to be tricks, I guess.
He's seen a few Star Trek episodes or, something.
No tricks, Kirk.
And then so he asks him to take Saavik up because she's got in the crew, they have the secret, right? And he's going to beam them up. He's like, take Spock too. And he says, no, I'm not taking Spock. I'm not taking you, and I'm not taking Spock up.
Because you wish it.
I like that. And so anyway, who's left on the planet is Kirk, Krug, and Spock.
Yeah, Kirk, Krug, and regenerating Spock, as I keep saying.
Spock 3.0.
But yeah, Spock's body regenerating.
Yeah, and so as the planet's tearing itself apart, and there's just like weird rocks being thrust up through the set. It's pretty crazy. There's lava everywhere.
They shot this on the same stages as the Ten Commandments, actually, at Paramount. No joke. Because the Ten Commandments stages had all these big pits I think they could use and shit.
Yeah.
Where you could put water in it or fire coming out of it kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's great. It looks great. And the miniatures by ILM, of course, as well.
Yeah. And so anyway, we left out the scene earlier where the Klingons arrive on the planet and those little flounders had evolved into these... what are those things from Star Wars that like suck on the ship? They're like...
Yeah. He had those big... the microbes had evolved into those things that tried to attack the Klingons earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did grow into that. But yeah, then after that, the Klingons just strangled them. But yeah.
Yeah, I love how Krug just grabs one as it's wrapping its kind of serpentine body around. It's like a big toothy worm, and he just crushes it to death. So Krug is not a bitch. He is not afraid of things.
It's funny you don't see like them evolve into some kind of dune-sized worm or something at this point, though.
Yeah.
While the planet's evolving and de-evolving or devolving or whatever.
We don't see them going through Panfar, that's for sure. But anyway, so...
Yeah, I forgot about that. I feel bad for harping on the movie for not like evolving that more. But yeah, they didn't evolve it more still. You know, honestly, even from
there's
that.
an opportunity there, I think.
I did hear that, Chris Lloyd strangled the effects artist's wrist during that scene so much that he was like, God, let go. God, don't you know this is like a human wrist underneath this puppet here? Because Chris Lloyd got into the acting a lot.
That's the thing is Chris Lloyd is really method. You know,
very much so.
He didn't bathe for weeks. He only spoke in Klingon.
And he works here so much because this movie is the operatic Star Trek, which is what I love about it. It's like the very much operatic, even more so compared to the last movie, Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
Because even the guy that designed the costumes on the last movie was from an opera originally. But fun fact, I feel like this is all operatic with Star Trek 3 more so.
It is, yeah.
Chris Lloyd adds to that with his operatic, larger-than-life performance. And I heard even Nimoy had to tell him, when he's talking on the communicator, because he would hold the communicator 3 feet away from his mouth.
Yeah.
Like to the heavens, like with both of his hands. And he'd be like, Moss, bring me up, And Nimoy would be like, no, you gotta hold the communicator to your mouth, Chris. You're talking to the people on the ship on this thing.
Yeah.
You're not talking to the heavens.
Yeah, that's funny.
You're not talking to the Valkyries up there.
He was clearly into the role, and I think he had a great time.
Yeah.
You can tell. So he's
just great in this movie. Also deserved an Oscar.
Chewing up the scenery. So anyway, we get to our big fight between Kirk and the Klingon, right? Planet's dying around them. It's crumbling around them. And then eventually Kirk bests the Klingon. But I'm just saying, like, Kirk, this guy can fight. He's tough.
He has a knockdown, drag-out fight with the Klingon crew down here on this planet. Yeah, and it's between Kirk and Krug and the stuntman and Shatner and the stuntman and Lloyd and
Not the first time that Shatner or at least that Kirk has fought Klingons, but he's an old man.
The stuntman does a great backflip here. That's great though. You see, for real in this scene. Yeah. Did you notice
like a stone like forces up and then he just jumps backward. Yeah.
Literally, the Krug stunt guy sets him off, and then he does this backflip like fucking shit. Then Kirk bests Krug and kicks him off the edge of this cliff, and says, "I have had enough of you."
Yeah, that's so weird. Krug is hanging on the edge of the cliff, and he's like, "Here, let me save you," and then he's like. So I forgot what he said. He said no, and then I've had enough of you. And the weirdest delivery. That's very strange. That's the take that they kept for the movie?
Yeah. I was going to say, too, he kicks him in the head here, and I noticed after he kicks him in the head, there's a big flash of lightning, and it's an ILM falling puppet version of Krug into the volcano, which is cool. Looks like a Hitchcock moment, kind of.
It's pretty cool, yeah. But we didn't get a Khan moment in this movie. There was no Khan! He could have said, instead of, I've had enough of you, with a little more gravitas or something.
Oh, yeah, like, I've had enough of you, Krug!
Krug, yeah.
Another K name, too, actually, Krug, yeah. But he never says Krug in this movie, hardly at all. He doesn't say Krug, really, does he?
Yeah.
He just says, Mos Joe.
But we got the fight that Kirk should have had with Khan in the last movie in this movie. But
that was like what Shatner wanted in the last movie. I wonder if this was giving Shatner his way on this part too. Because Shatner was getting a big check on this movie as much as Nimoy. Yeah. Probably. Almost as much as Nimoy. Nimoy's actor and director.
I'm not sure if old man Kirk could fight against Khan, though, or even really this Klingon. He's kind of old.
I
don't
think Meyer fought against that in a kind way to Shatner.
Yeah.
I think Meyer thought it was better left between the two ships. It was because it was Horatio Hornblower in outer space once again with Nick Meyer.
Yeah.
Two ships basically going at it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, the Klingons are dead, and then Kirk gets beamed up to the Klingon ship,
The Bird of Prey.
The Bird of Prey, and I think that I love how they're trying to figure out how to work this thing because the Genesis planet's about to explode. They need to get out of there, and they're like, None of the directions are in English on that ship.
I love too that the last guy on the ship is John Larroquette in makeup, in Klingon makeup, and he's like, "Wait, don't kill me," and he's like, "Fine, I'll kill you later."
Or he says to kill me, but yeah, and down on the planet, that's the thing about Klingons. Like Kirk is like, if we both stay here, we'll die, and it's like, yeah, of course, that's what a Klingon wants. To your point,
yeah, Klingon
earlier.
wants a sacrifice. You know,
you're not worried about dying. What the hell? You can't negotiate with the Klingon, you know, and it's about death.
And then they beam onto the ship, and this Klingon wants them to kill him. He'd rather them just like slaughter him, and then Which weird though, you don't see him in the next movie. It's never. And plus, what happened to him before Mount Seleia? Why is that Klingon not?
Why is he still there?
Back at Mount Seleia with the rest of them later on in the movie.
Actually, Jordan, what happened is it's a Klingon warbird needs at least one person to man the ship at all times. You can't not have somebody on the ship, Jordan. Come on. He was in the cargo deck the whole time. He was in the transporter room.
What happened? Did they fucking take him off and kill him? Think about it, Anthony. Oh my God. I didn't think about that until now, sadly. Why do I not think about this shit until I'm live on the air on a podcast?
Jordan, don't you remember they put him on a porch swing, and then Spock explained that 1985 will change all around him. So it was, and then it was explained very sloppily.
Oh, you're saying they put him on a porch swing like Jennifer and the
like
Back to the Future sequels? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they did with that one Klingon. Wait, you said you would kill me. That guy. What happened to him, Anthony? Now I
when they traveled in time, the timelines, it all changed around him, Jordan.
No, Anthony, they killed him, Anthony. What's in the box, Anthony? No, I'm sorry.
What you didn't see is just a very gruesome scene of Kirk exacting his revengeance on that Klingon, and we hear that Klingon line. Right, the Klingons.
No, Scotty took him in the back. Scotty's the one who hadn't slept in a while, and Scotty's like, "You fucking Klingon motherfucker." Scotty's going back to that old Star Trek episode where he got into a fight, a barroom brawl with that Klingon. He's going back to that shit. He's like, "Oh, you fucking Klingon motherfucker!" And Chekhov was like, "No, I got him, Scotty. You hold him down. I got him." And he kicked him in the groin and shit. Whatever the Klingon groin was, Who knows where a Klingon groin was? I mean, Anyway,
we found out where a Vulcan groin was. It's on the fingers. That's what's happening. But anyway,
I guess so. No shit. God damn.
So anyway, the planet explodes. They escape.
Yeah, explodes and implodes, it looks like, kind of at the same time. I don't know how to explain it because, it looks beautiful, though, at the same time. It looks like a lava explosion.
And then they take Spock on the Klingon ship to Vulcan, and they meet
There's
Sarek.
This beautiful moment between him and McCoy on the way where McCoy says, I miss you, and I don't want to lose you again. Like, it's kind of sad. Like, he says, Spock, I wish you could hear me right now. Anyway.
Yeah. Then they take the ship to Vulcan, and Sarek requests a mind transfusion. Beautiful set here.
We're on Mount Seleia here.
Mount Seleia.
But I love this fly-in, too, into Mount Seleia with the James Horner music. It's just beautiful. It's like, you see the Bird of Prey do this beautiful fly-in to Mount Seleia, and it's just, goddamn, it's just ILM in their fucking element.
Oh, it looks fantastic, even today.
And with the music over it, you're just like, it looks like a fucking painting come to life. Like, anyway.
Yeah, they take it to this Vulcan priestess, right? Whatever she is.
Played by Dame Judith Anderson, who I remember always from the old Hitchcock, David O. Selznick movie Rebecca, playing the fucking woman that watched the house for Mrs. De Winter, the creepy old woman. And here she is playing the high priestess, which I'm glad. Yeah, I appreciate her more after watching her in Rebecca, honestly, in this role. Definitely a dame. Dame Judith Anderson. Yeah. Great actress.
Yeah, so anyway, she performs basically a mind swap, a Freaky Friday mind transfusion between
Freaky Friday.
A Freaky Friday mind transfusion between Bones and Spock, and we're not sure if it works as they're two laying on this table.
This is based on an old Jewish Dybbuk this is based on an old Jewish
Watch your mouth,
myth.
Jordan. This is a family podcast.
This is based on an old Jewish myth called the Dybbuk, where it was about people transferring, not what was left of the body, but what was left of the person, to person kind of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no joke.
It's a great, wonderful scene, and it's shot fantastically. There's a lot of great mats.
It's very religious looking. No matter what your religion is, you would relate to it.
Yeah. Next time you're in Vulcan, yeah.
It's like she's laying prayer hands to each body, McCoy and Spock, and joining them in holy matrimony, spiritual, but not joining them. Hopefully, joining themselves back to themselves. Perfectly.
Yeah, hopefully splitting them apart.
Themselves back to themselves in holy matrimony. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Splitting them apart.
It's more of a divorce ceremony, but
it's beautiful too because it relies on less special effects. It's like mostly music and fog, and light.
And
that's
costumes.
It. Lightning and then costumes, but you don't see any more than that. There's no optical effect. Oddly, for ILM even doing the effects, there's no optical effect here or anything like that. But yet it works. It works so beautifully with the music and fog and smoke and Dame Judith Anderson's performance and the costumes and the look. It's so. I love the simplicity of this scene.
It is, and they could have had some swirly clouds or anything. No, it's just a very simple religious ceremony here.
No Disney-style animation roto here at the last minute even. Nothing like that. No Peter Curran rotoscope coming in here. No, nothing like that.
No Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, no Raiders of the Lost Ark. Not even a cloud tank from Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of thing, or Close Encounters or Ten Commandments style. No, it's like this is Ten Commandments without having to use a lot of effects. It's amazing.
Yeah. But the reason they did that is to build suspense because we don't know. If they had flashy effects or something, something was happening. Here we genuinely don't know. Did it work? Did it not work?
That's the beauty of it too. Yeah. You and then when they walk away, you're like, did it work? I hope it worked. It looked like it worked. Oh, did it work? Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time we get to the end of it, and you see McCoy get up and go, I'm fine, Jim.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's the first part.
And Sarek thanks Kirk.
Yeah, exactly. But you still don't know. Even after that, even after Sarek thanks Kirk, you don't know.
Yeah. And then we see Spock get up or being helped up. And then they're putting robes on him, all the religious folks. And he walks past the crew who are all lined up there. And he walks over to Kirk. And Spock is clearly hungover at this point. He looks hungover.
Been through a bad trip, man. Came down from a bad trip.
Took too much LDS in the 60s. Anyway, he asked Kirk, what does he say to Kirk, Jordan?
He says, I've been dead once. It's very liberating. No, he didn't say that. I'm just kidding. That was Jack Nicholson from Batman. I'm sorry. No, he says, my father says, you're my friend, but I don't remember. He says, ship, out of danger? And he says, Spock, you saved us. You saved the crew. You saved us all. Don't you remember? Your name is Jim. Your name is Jim.
Yeah.
And that's like the big thing. And but the beautiful thing he says is, my father says you saved me. Why did you do all this? The beautiful thing is Kirk says to Spock, he echoes the first movie's line from Shakespeare. He says, because the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Flips the line.
I'm going to cry.
It's beautiful. Yeah, his memories are slowly coming back. And I mean, movie over. There we go.
And that's where Spock says, your name is Jim. And he says, and Kirk just smiles. And Spock smiles. The crew comes to him and this adoring, loving, you're back, Spock kind of manner. And we see the adventure continues. And then the James Horner music cues us
Kirk
up.
he says, Spock, you owe me $400. That's why I did this.
Yeah. Spock, you made $1 million more than me on this movie. How dare you? You made $2 million for being director. I made $1 million. It's no fair. At least I got a point in the grosses. I hope you don't know.
So then the adventure continues. So they were planning already a sequel to this. The last one made money. This one's probably going to make some money.
Yeah. Nimoy will direct the next one after this one as well. And then Shatner will direct the one after that one.
And that's another one. Ugh. In our 5 Cool series, or 5 Cool episode, we'll talk about... And
then Nick Meyer will direct the 6th one after Shatner, luckily, and bring it back around.
Yeah, so anyway, let's go back to this movie. I want to ask a few questions, Jordan.
Yeah.
Does this sequel, the third one in this franchise, does it further the story or wrap it up? In this case, does it further the story pretty well? Does it pick up the mantle and run with it?
I think it does, yes. I think it does more than most threequels do, actually. Yeah. I think
this is a weird...
Yeah, it takes a journey, but at least you get the payoff. You get to, yes, there's Spock at the end of the rainbow. Yeah,
this is a weird one because this is an arc that's predicting a fourth film, right?
But you don't. And it's weird. Also, you're right. You don't see Spock until the end of the movie. Hardly.
Yeah. So, is it true to the character? Speaking of that,
absolutely.
Okay.
And I feel like that's because of Nimoy directing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely true to the characters. As much as we nitpick about Star Trek logic, that's another subject altogether.
Yeah.
No, I think this stays true to Star Trek's spirit and all that, and character. And Spock's character, and all that, and the Vulcan character. Nimoy had an influence on the Spock. Who would know better? Who would know Vulcan and Spock and Sark better than Nimoy?
Yeah, and I think these two movies, they're almost one movie, really.
Oh yeah,
it's a story
this
about.
This is a bookend chapter to Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, it's a story about a friendship between two men and the lengths that they will go for one another. If you looked in it that lens, it's quite beautiful.
You say two men, but also it's a trilogy. It's a trinity between McCoy and Spock, because McCoy's there too. McCoy's the one holding Spock's spirit in this one. So it's really between those three guys. It's a holy trinity kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kirk is in the middle of both McCoy and Spock always, though. He's kind of the middle ground between them, between the heart and the logic, the spirit and the logic, the anger, anytime, or the emotion and the logic. McCoy's the emotion. Spock is the logic always.
Yeah, and Kirk is the conscience. Kirk is,
Kirk's between those guys always, because he's the captain. He has to differentiate between them always. That's the way it is. That's always gonna be the way it is.
But he takes counsel from both of them, being the captain.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you need an emotional response, and sometimes you need a logical one, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so given that, is this a cheap cash-in? A lot of threequels, a lot of these questions maybe don't apply to this particular movie since it's a part of a long franchise and a story arc, but is this movie a cheap cash-in or is it a worthy sequel?
It's both, I think. It's a cheap cash-in on the part of Paramount, for sure, because that's how it got the movie made also. But that's also the movie got made, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But is it a cheap cash-in in the sense of being cheap? Does it feel cheap? No, I would say no. Doesn't feel like a cheap cash-in. It doesn't feel like this is going to be another go-around here.
Yeah, it's just not a cash grab. Yeah.
But yet the summer of '84, this did make money. This is a very successful sequel.
Well, let's see. On a budget of $16 million, Jordan.
Wow, that's less than Wrath of Khan, isn't it?
Oh, Wrath of Khan is actually, they spent more money on this, so not a cheap cash-in.
Oh.
Because the budget for Khan was $12 million. The budget here is $16.
Oh, my God. Wow, you compare that to the first movie. The first movie was $40 million over budget, I guess. 40 or so million.
And that was the 70s, too.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, on a budget of $16 million, it made $87 million at the box office. But Khan made $97 million. So less money, more money. But that's still a good chunk of change. And, I mean, it was the 8th highest grossing film of 1984.
I believe it, yeah. Yeah, and it held its own with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Natural.
Yeah, a little less than Beverly Hills Cop, to be honest.
And Beverly Hills Cop and Terminator and...
Yeah, but anyway, so where's the hate come from on this movie? Like, a lot of Star Trek fans, a lot of people don't like this movie. Why is that?
Some of the older generation of Star Trek fans feel like this movie, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, is the bastard child or the total rehash of Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. That's the problems they have with it. And if you look at the story logic, it follows the same. It kind of follows the same story logic.
Yeah.
Harv Bennett wrote the script this time around, and he kind of followed the same story logic for this movie. But I feel like he did a fine job as far as extending the story from Wrath of Khan. That was not an easy thing to come up with a script like that. I think he was...
After you killed Spock, damn.
I think Harv Bennett might have been influenced by Nicholas Meyer, maybe, in a sense, and just having worked on the last movie. Because apparently he hammered out the script really quickly, too, which I can't imagine. But this seems like a likely logic arc.
Okay.
Between 2, 3, and 4, it feels like this feels like these are 3 sort of movies together, 2,
Yeah.
3, and 4.
It's really interesting. I know there's a lot of sequels that pick up, but this feels more like a story that was written in 3 parts.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily like Marvel movies, which pick up on one another.
So I hate to think in those terms of being the bastard child of Wrath of Khan. Also, this was my first exposure to Star Trek, was this movie, honestly, as a
really?
child. So yeah, I mean, this got me into Star Trek. So, it's about as bad as me ripping on somebody for not liking a Keaton Batman originally. If, like, George Clooney was their Batman, should I give them a hard time for that? No. That was their gateway.
I would. Anyway. Anyway.
You're Lord Krug here. No.
So anyway, given that, what kind of rating do you give this movie, Jordan?
I give this actually 5 out of 5 Vulcan live long and prosper hand salutes. I will rate it that big because this was my gateway to Star Trek, this movie.
That's pretty good, yeah. I'm surprised.
5 out of 5.
Yeah, Ponfar would.
5 out of 5.
Ponfar Morningwood.
Morningwood, 5 out of 5 Vulcan hand salutes, live long and prosper hand salutes.
Okay.
Yeah, what kind of rating do you give this, Anthony? From your end, you don't like Star Trek as much as I do. You're a fan of rare movies, sci-fi, horror, exploitation, be it weird, obviously. Star Trek being,
I mean,
we kind of have to get you interested in Star Trek maybe a bit because it is a
passing interest, interest. But yeah, well, for me, I actually rather enjoyed this movie. I thought Christopher Lloyd. There's something weird. Christopher Lloyd's a little distracting.
Yeah.
Maybe his character's underwritten. Maybe maybe they could have recast Krug, but he works. Don't get me wrong, he works. But
we are Klingons.
Something is missing there. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I think
you think he's too much? He's like you as the director, you would have been like, dial it back a bit.
Yeah, but that's more of I like him as it's hard to explain. I like him as the Klingon. Maybe it's just overshadowed by his other roles. Maybe that's it. And I think of him comedically, so it comes across comedic to me. And maybe someone who's a little gruffer and physically more imposing might have been a better choice. But he can act. I'm not slamming him. I just think it's a casting thing.
Yeah.
I do think Robin Curtis is a little wooden. I know she's fine, but Kirstie Alley just had more presence.
Yeah.
She's
supposed to be a Vulcan too. She's supposed to have no emotion, but she's trying to figure out how to be a Vulcan, I think also.
I think that's it. And
stuck into the role.
Kirstie Alley, I don't know, I don't know. She had a little more experience with it. I don't know.
I heard Leonard Nimoy gave her some emotional direction when he's going down the line of look at everybody, because the way she looks at him, and it is beautiful too, the way she looks at Spock in the last scene there after he's arisen, after Spock's come out of the tomb, Yeah. And he looks upon everyone and blesses everyone. But yeah, looks at Saavik. There's this look of her like there's this emotional connection between them. And that was some interesting direction Leonard Nimoy whispered in her ear, apparently. Like, I think he said something like, imagine you hadn't seen this friend in a while.
Yeah, I mean, she's not bad. I'm not saying she's bad. I just think that, I don't know, maybe underwritten.
She had some boots to fill. She had Kirstie Alley's boots to fill.
Yeah, and I think just the character was a little underwritten in this episode. But there's a lot of humor, and it feels like a TV show at times in a weird way.
This was shot completely on Paramount, inside sound stages, Anthony.
Yeah.
All inside sound. That's another interesting aspect of what you say. But yeah, I mean, every atmosphere you see is inside of a soundstage. Even Genesis as a planet, when we see it all tropical, that's inside of a Paramount soundstage. Inside of the ship, that's a Paramount soundstage. Anytime we see outside, it's a painting usually, or it's a miniature by Island,
Yeah. Well, I give it 6 out of 10 slimy Klingon dogs. No, 7 out of 10 slimy Klingon dogs. Because I don't know if this is true, but on IMDb it says there was a fire at Paramount and William Shatner helped fight the fire and rescue the crew before the firefighters got there. So I'm going to give it an extra point just for that.
I was wondering when one of us was going to bring that up, actually. But yeah, I do know about that because there was a big crew. And Shatner tells this whole story about how he got in to fight the fire because he was doing it to stay on schedule.
not because I was trying to be a hero, but because I wanted to stay on schedule. But the way everybody else talks about it was like, yeah, and in fact, and even Bill got in there and fought the fire, as I remember. You jumped in there for a bit.
Yeah. So anyway, that saves it a little bit for me.
But I give it to Bill Shatner for helping fight the fire. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, but I don't get why this movie gets so much hate. I thought it was quite enjoyable, to be honest.
I think it's with the harder core Star Trek fans, like I said, that think of this as the bastard rehash of Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
I agree. Who cares? It's like, okay, yeah, it follows the same kind of act progression. Who cares? It doesn't completely follow it. Of course the Klingons would be interested in the Genesis weapon. Yeah. Of course they would. Of course they would hold some shit hostage for it, even some Klingon terrorist types or whatever.
Yeah. Hell, Khan's not even a perfect movie. And someone's like, unsubscribe.
No, you could rip the logic on Khan too on some places. Sure, I'm sure.
It's okay. It's better than most people. I've heard more about this movie than I have seen it. I think I saw it once or twice before, but it's not that bad.
I'll ask you. Do you think this holds its own as a threequel? Or it's not a letdown as a threequel?
It's better than most threequels only because it's in a weird position of being in a firm story arc that literally picks up, the end of one movie picks up exactly in the next.
Because it has no, it's painted into a corner, but it's kind of a luck thing there for the writer being like, oh, at least I know where to pick up at least. You have to pick up the pieces here. At least you'd know this would happen, that would happen, this would happen.
Yeah.
Right? And then it follows through on that at least. It doesn't fuck around at least with it.
No.
It doesn't send you some weird place where you're like, well, why is McCoy now at a tropical club in the Bahamas?
Yeah. It's got to bring
for
Spock
a ride to Mount Salea.
Yeah.
Why is McCoy still looking for a ride?
Yeah, it's like it's got a lot to do. It's got to bring Spock back from the dead. That's very difficult. As far as threequels go, I think it's one of the better ones in a weird way.
At least it was in Nimoy's hands, honestly, and Hardbennett's hands, honestly. Though it was in some, they were both confident, clearly. But Nimoy was directing, and Nimoy knew what was going on. He knew the material. He knew everything. I feel like.
Yeah.
And I feel like too, Nimoy was such a great director. I wish Nimoy had done more action, adventure, sci-fi, or western even, instead of just stuff like. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this. I hope the Nimoy estate isn't pissed when I say this. I just wish he'd done more than 3 Men and a Baby as a director. More than The Good Mother.
How dare you?
Keaton. Yeah. I'm sorry. Anyway. And more than that Gene Wilder,
classic
Christine
film.
Lottie movie, Everything But Love, or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Everything But...
Yeah, classic film. All right, Jordan. Well, thank you all for listening. We appreciate this. We hope you've enjoyed this discussion. And if you like this, check out our other episodes. Jordan, it's been great talking to you about movies.
What movies? What are you talking about, Anthony? I'm trying to charter a space flight here, and you're talking about a podcast. What are you talking about?
All right. Well,
how can you be deaf with ears like that, Anthony? Come on.
Hey. Anyway, all right. Well, Jordan, this has been
The Robots took my podcast. The robots, damn bastards, took my podcast.
All trailers, clips, music, or any other copyrighted material are used sparingly, edited from their original forms, and used for the purposes of criticism, discussion, commentary, and education about these fine films.